And I don't know why she keeps protecting that man. He doesn't even like her like that, but she keeps putting herself at risk, defending him and protecting him. I don't get it.
So Solange is done staying quiet because she just put Beyoncé on blast. According to sources, Beyoncé didn't just stand by while Jay-Z moved funny behind the scenes. She allegedly actively helped keep things buried even after his name started circulating in connection with Jeffrey Epstein. And insiders are saying that Solange is done watching Beyoncé protect him, because once those Epstein files surfaced, the illusion cracked. Old accusations suddenly started popping up again. Strange industry moments started making sense, and people began questioning whether Beyoncé was ever just a bystander or if she was part of the silence that protected Epstein and his crew. And here's where things get really uncomfortable. Almost everything fans are clocking now lines up with what Wendy Williams warned us about years ago. She said Beyoncé was more devious and calculated than we could imagine. Back then, she got dragged. Right now, it's looking like she might have been early, not bitter. Her accusations are coming back hard, so let's break it down. So it looks like Solange accidentally exposed Beyoncé for supposedly being an accomplice to Jay-Z's shenanigans with Epstein, and it was not on our bingo card, but here we are. The wild part about this is that Solange was trying to help Beyoncé take down Jay-Z by trying to get her to stop covering for him and expose his shady shenanigans. One thing about Miss Solange, she's always gonna be Jay-Z's biggest hater and nobody's ever gonna come close. According to reports, Solange has always suspected that Jay-Z's hands were not exactly clean, but when his name was dropped in the Epstein files, that was when she finally realized just how bad the situation was and that Beyoncé had known about it from the start. And honestly, given the things that were released in the files, it's not hard to see why Solange would be horrified. She started to piece things together when she saw the new set of Epstein documents drop, and suddenly a lot of familiar names were getting dragged into the whole conversation. Jay-Z was one of those people mentioned, and according to the documents, his name came up in connection with Harvey Weinstein, and not in the vague way either. The documents suggest that they were around each other enough that Jay-Z allegedly witnessed Harvey doing some seriously inappropriate things to young and didn't react or intervene, but the files didn't stop there. One section gets especially heavy. It goes into an account from a who reportedly contacted the FBI's National Threat Operations Center to identify herself as someone who had been SA'd by Jeffrey Epstein and others connected to him. She also claimed that back in the mid-90s, around 1996, she was abducted from her home by an unidentified man. According to her account in the documents, when she regained consciousness, she says she was in a room with Jay-Z and Harvey Weinstein. In her statement, she alleged that Weinstein SA'd her while Jay-Z was present in the room. It's an extremely disturbing accusation on its own, and from what people are showing and following the case are saying, that may not be the end of it. There are reportedly additional pages in the files that allegedly hint at even more questionable connections tied to Jay-Z. But you want to know what's really wild? It's that this wasn't the first time that Jay-Z and Beyoncé have been accused of witnessing some shady stuff that turning a blind eye. Fans started digging it. Well, let's just say that they found some really shady stuff. Like the time that they were named in a lawsuit against Diddy. You know, for someone who claims to not have been friends with Diddy, his name sure does come up often when talking about Diddy. But what makes this particular case especially interesting is that Beyoncé was also named in the lawsuit, and also was filed by a man named Joseph Manzaro, who claimed that Jay-Z's former bestie Diddy allegedly SA'd him. In his lawsuit, he made some pretty shocking claims, roping some pretty popular celebs into the lawsuit. In the lawsuit, he claimed that he was being drugged, transported against his will, and maimed as a victim of a coercive and organized criminal enterprise. He claimed that in April 2015 he lost consciousness after feeling a greasy substance resembling Vaseline as he opened the front door to his home, after which he says he was transported to another residence where an associate of Combs allegedly told him that the music mogul wanted him brought to a freak-off event. He claimed that he had regained consciousness and he found himself in the middle of a party that was already in full swing. He also revealed that he later found out that the party was a birthday party for Diddy's son Christian Combs, and that he was forced to wear a mask that looked like a man's privates. The lawsuit said Jay-Z and Beyoncé Knowles Carter were seated in the room, and upon seeing Manzaro, Beyoncé Knowles Carter asked, "What's this? What's this all about? Why is this half-naked white man with a pea mask standing here in front of me?" And surprise, surprise, the lawsuit was amended after only a few days, and all mention of Jay-Z and Beyoncé had been removed. Now, at the time, we thought that they were dropped because they were innocent, but now with Solange exposing Beyoncé for covering for Jay-Z, we have to wonder if they were dropped out of innocence or if something shadier happened behind the scenes. Now the streets are finally adding two and two together. Let's just say that this good girl image that Beyoncé has is quickly changing. See, for a long time, people kind of just assumed that she was Jay-Z's victim and had no part in his creepy stuff that he may have done. But the reason that people think this is that Beyoncé was pretty young when she and Jay-Z got together, so everyone sees her as helpless and an unwilling participant. But now that we're seeing evidence that she may have helped Jay-Z cover up, fans are starting to look at her in a different way. Let's just say it's not looking good for her. Fans did more digging, and it turns out that the evidence of her being involved has been in our faces the entire time. But for some reason, we never really put two and two together. Like the time that the baby exposed her for not only being a Diddy's freak-offs, but also being an active participant. When I sat down with Shannon Sharp, the baby talked about a moment where he says things went down at one of Diddy's now infamous parties. And according to him, it got weird fast. He said it started off exactly how you'd expect. Lavish venue, big industry names everywhere, music blasting, drinks flowing, and the usual mix of beautiful people networking and partying. Then according to the baby, the entire vibe suddenly changed. He claimed that Diddy shut the party down out of nowhere, not because anything went wrong, but because he wanted to host what the baby described as a private freak-off for a select group of VIPs. And that's where it really raised eyebrows. The baby claimed that the guest list was for private moments, including some of the biggest names in music, specifically Beyoncé and Jay-Z.
Beyonce, I was at a party at Diddy crib in LA. This was the beginning of 2020. Diddy had put everybody else out the crib. Like the influx of people, he had put them out. He had took a liking to me in particular around the time, and it was really putting his arm around me, right?
Now, according to the baby, this was the point where everything went from awkward to just flat out uncomfortable. According to him, Diddy started acting weird around him, getting way too close and way too touchy. He said Diddy had put his arms around him and got handsy, and the whole thing felt off. And then went on to plan that the real reason that Beyoncé was even at the party was that Diddy allegedly wanted to light him up for her. If you catch my drift. In his words, it felt like Diddy was trying to pimp him out. The way he told the story, the whole scene felt like a setup from the jump, with the baby realizing way too late that he was the only one in the room who didn't get the memo.
So he had put the majority of the people out, but he allowed me to stay in the median, maybe about 15 others. Right. Jay-Z and Beyonce being, 2 of the 15 people in the room. So that would just put it into perspective of the type of company I was in at the moment, and she came over and introduced herself to me like as if she had to. Right, Beyonce, cut it out. But I'm a big fan of your work, you know what I'm saying? And that was just dope. That was dope as hell.
And considering that Diddy had faced similar accusations when trying to pimp Little Rod to other people, it's not all that surprising. Turns out that at least on one occasion, Beyonce was recorded in an extremely compromising situation at the parties, and the tape came this close to being sold. According to a lawyer named Ariel Mitchell Kidd, she was allegedly contacted by a client who wanted her to help broker the sale of a tape featured one of the most prominent celebs in the industry. Ariel claimed that the celebrity was clearly not aware that they were being billed.
I also was just recently contacted by someone who wanted me to essentially represent them in the sale of one of the Diddy tapes. So, which I declined that because, but one particular person contacted me to shop a particular video they were in possession of, and to contact the person who was in the video to see if they were interested in purchasing the video before it became a public knowledge.
I've heard
I can't explain who the person was, but Mr. Combs was in the tape, and this other person is, I would venture to say, more high profile than Mr. Combs.
Really? Really? And you've seen it?
I've seen stills of the video.
Okay.
You can verify that it exists, that it's real, that the other person in the video is very visible. It's no question if it's that person in the video. And I can tell the video is pornographic in nature.
So it looks like while Beyonce was covering for Jay-Z, she didn't cover herself. And getting that the video did not end up leaked, it seems like Beyonce paid off the lawyer and the client who had the video. But there's definitely more. According to Jay-Z's former friend Larry Johnson, he once attended a party with Beyonce where there were minors. She made very disturbing comments about them.
Now, I did a Rockaware photo shoot in Colorado, and I think it was during the winter time of 06 or 07. And Naomi Campbell was there, actress Jamie King was there, Jay was there, B was there, and he rented this house. And we were supposed to do this rap party for this photo shoot. We rented this house, and we were watching LeBron play. And after the game, it had to have been like 10 or 11 o'clock. So we getting ready to party. So when 11 o'clock hit, we turned on the music, we started drinking, and then out of nowhere came these young children. I don't know where they came from. For a rap party at 11 o'clock at night, drinking, loud music, and us dancing wild, like, I don't know where these kids came from. And then I happened to sit down because I was dancing with one of the assistants. And I sat next to this child, and the child sat next to Beyonce. So I hear B say something about, doesn't this look sexy, or isn't this sexy? And in my mind, and mind you, I'm not awakened as I'm awakened now. So in my mind, I'm like, what did she just say?
The more we dig into this Beyoncé stuff, the shadier the situation looks, and right now it's looking very shady. And now people are starting to remember what Wendy Williams said about Beyoncé and how she was one of the first people to expose Beyoncé for not being the sweet person she pretends to be. And you remember when she called Beyoncé out for supposedly faking her pregnancy.
Just take a look at the video. Okay, so here's Beyonce, and she's walking out, and everything is fine. She's 5 months pregnant. Then she sits down, and okay, no, we're gonna rerun it until you see it. Let's do it in slow motion. You'll notice she's either giving birth to a Frisbee or Stewie from Family Guy. Look at the shape. Look, do you see? There it is, there it is.
She also called Beyoncé out for sabotaging other female artists to get to the top.
So now, guess who's jealous of Adele? Beyonce.
But every time she called Beyoncé out, people came for her and accused her of being bitter and jealous. Looks like we might owe her an apology after all. This is where the whole story starts to turn really ugly, because once you zoom out, this stops looking like random accusations and for us to look like a pattern of silence, protection, and power moves that all lead back to Beyoncé. From Epstein documents to amended lawsuits to industry insiders suddenly talking, the same question keeps popping up. How much did Beyoncé actually know, and how long was she willing to keep it buried? And if Solange really tried to get her to stop covering up for him, that says everything about how bad it really had gotten behind closed doors. But what makes this hit harder is that none of this feels new anymore, it feels delayed. Because Wendy has been saying it for years that the image was too clean, the power too protected, and the stories too controlled. She got dragged, dismissed, and painted as bitter, but now the pieces are lining up in a way that's impossible to ignore.